The darkness of space rippled as 3 shimmering vessels emerged from the void. Each ship, a sleek, predatory design bristling with weaponry, hovered menacingly near the asteroid belt. Aboard the lead vessel, Razorclaw, commander of the alien hunting party, observed the distant blue marble with a chilling smirk. Earth. The warnings were clear, but fear is for the weak. Let the hunt begin. Captain Elias Morgan, a battle-hardened officer with sharp blue eyes and a perpetually furrowed brow, paced the bridge of the Horizon's Edge, a human reconnaissance cruiser stationed near the asteroid belt. His instincts gnawed at him, a sense that something wasn't right. "Run a deep scan, Lieutenant Rios," he ordered, his voice calm but laced with urgency. The crew, seasoned and alert, followed his commands without hesitation. "Captain, I'm picking up faint energy signatures," Rios said, brow furrowed in concentration. "It's erratic, doesn't match any known vessel configuration." Morgan's eyes narrowed. In his years of service, he'd seen enough anomalies to recognize the prelude to an ambush. "Ready the defensive grid. They're hiding in the rocks." Miles away, Razorclaw's grin widened as his ships activated their cloaking fields, preparing to strike. He turned to his second-in-command, a hulking brute covered in scars. "Humans are clever but fragile. We strike fast and break their will before they can mount any resistance. Then Earth is ours." Morgan's instincts had saved lives countless times before, and today was no different. "Divert power to forward shields and prepare countermeasures," he barked. The bridge buzzed with activity as the crew moved with practiced precision. The tension crackled in the air. Morgan's heartbeat echoed the subtle hum of the ship's systems. He stared at the swirling debris outside, searching for any sign of the threat he knew was out there. Suddenly, the alien ships pounced, energy bolts lancing out from the shadows. The Horizon's Edge shuddered violently as shields absorbed the first salvo. Razorclaw's voice crackled over the comms, dripping with cruel amusement. "You should have stayed hidden, human. Your world will be a fine hunting ground." Morgan's jaw tightened, his mind racing through possibilities. "Activate decoys. Let's show them who's really being hunted." With a nod, Rios executed the command, releasing a cluster of holographic projections that weaved through the debris field. The alien hunters, sensing easy kills, pursued the false targets, splitting their formation. "Now! Bring us about and target their lead ship's flank," Morgan ordered. His voice was steely, his determination unshakable. The Horizon's Edge spun with surprising agility for a vessel its size, locking onto Razorclaw's ship and unleashing a barrage of kinetic projectiles. Razorclaw's ship reeled from the unexpected assault, alarms blaring as it struggled to regroup. On board the alien command ship, Razorclaw's smug confidence faltered. "These humans, they adapt quickly," he hissed, frustration seeping into his voice. His second-in-command growled in agreement. "They're more resourceful than we thought. This will not be a simple slaughter." Morgan, sensing the shift in momentum, pressed the advantage. "All ships, advance on their positions. Keep them guessing, no pattern, no rhythm." His strategy was clear: deny the aliens their expected easy victory by using unpredictability and coordinated strikes. The alien fleet, built for brute force, found itself overwhelmed by the nimble human ships. Razorclaw's pride turned into cold anger as he realized that he had underestimated this prey. "Retreat into the shadows. We need to regroup." But it was too late. Morgan had already cut off their escape route. The humans weren't running, they were hunting. As the Horizon's Edge closed in for the final blow, Morgan's voice rang out, quiet but resolute. "You picked the wrong species to toy with." With a decisive command, the ship's weapons blazed, crippling Razorclaw's vessel. The alien commander's eyes burned with fury as he watched his ship's systems fail. "This isn't over, human," he snarled before his ship vanished into the darkness, limping away. Morgan watched them retreat, his expression unreadable. "No, it's just beginning," he muttered to himself. The crew erupted in cheers, but Morgan remained focused, his gaze fixed on the empty void where the alien hunters had disappeared. They would return, stronger and more prepared. But so would humanity. As the tension settled and the adrenaline faded, Morgan's voice echoed through the bridge. Send a message to Earth Command, alien contact confirmed. They're testing our defenses. And we passed. The chapter ended with a sense of lingering unease, an anticipation that this skirmish was only the prelude to something far larger and deadlier. But for now, humanity had sent its message loud and clear. On this hunt, they were more than just prey. They were predators in their own right. The void of space crackled with tension as Captain Morgan stood rigid on the bridge of the horizon's edge. Razorclaw's retreat was only temporary, an act of regrouping, not surrender. Morgan knew better than to let his guard down. They'll be back, and this time they'll hit harder, he muttered, more to himself than to his crew. Lieutenant Rios broke the silence. Captain, scans indicate unusual energy readings near Sector 5. Could be their cloaked ships again. The hint of concern in her voice mirrored the apprehension spreading through the bridge. Morgan's gaze sharpened. They're trying to bait us into a trap. Let's not take the obvious path. He considered his options. The alien hunters had learned from their first encounter, but so had he. Order all ships to form a wide perimeter. Prepare decoy drones. We'll outflank them before they even realize we've moved. In the depths of an asteroid cluster, Razorclaw's frustration simmered into cold determination. His ship's sensors hummed as he reviewed the battlefield, plotting his next move. The humans had proven more resilient than expected, their unpredictability an unexpected variable. Deploy the hunting pack. Circle wide and force them into the kill zone, he commanded. His subordinates, hardened predators who lived for the thrill of the hunt, obeyed without question. The alien vessels, barely visible in the shadows of the asteroids, glided silently as they moved into formation. Their sleek designs, built for ambush and precision strikes, now stalked their prey with a renewed sense of caution. Razorclaw knew that underestimating humans twice would mean disgrace, and possibly death. Meanwhile, Morgan's fleet drifted into position, maintaining radio silence. Every crew member's nerves were on edge, fingers twitching near controls, waiting for the inevitable clash. The minutes stretched, the void thick with anticipation. Then, the first blip appeared on the radar, faint but unmistakable. They're here, Rios whispered, eyes glued to her console. Multiple ships, coming from 3 vectors. Morgan's expression hardened. Just as we expected. Wait for my signal. He allowed the tension to stretch, feeding into the enemy's impatience. Steady, he repeated softly. The alien ships accelerated, hungry for blood. Suddenly, Morgan gave the order. Deploy decoys, now! Small drones burst from the human vessels, projecting false sensor readings that mimicked the signatures of larger warships. Razorclaw's forces, eager for the kill, lunged toward the apparent targets, only to realize too late that they'd been duped. The real human fleet had maneuvered behind them, catching them in a deadly crossfire. Fire at will! Morgan's voice sliced through the air. The human ships unleashed a barrage of firepower, ripping through the exposed flanks of the alien vessels. Razorclaw's hunters scrambled, trying to escape the trap, but the ambush had turned against them. On Razorclaw's bridge, fury twisted his features. How do they keep outmaneuvering us? His pride, once his greatest strength, now felt like a shackle. His eyes flickered to a display showing the shrinking number of his ships. Regroup! Do not let them pin us down! But it was too late. The humans pressed the advantage, their coordinated strikes crippling one alien ship after another. Razorclaw snarled in rage, knowing that this battle was slipping away from him. Retreat! He barked, bitter bile rising in his throat. Fall back to the shadows! As the remaining alien ships limped away into the darkness, the tension on the horizon's edge finally eased. Morgan exhaled, though his mind remained sharp and calculating. He knew Razorclaw would come back, angrier and more dangerous. This isn't over. They'll be desperate next time, and desperate enemies are the most dangerous. Rios nodded, her voice low. They're learning, but so are we. Morgan stared into the vast expanse where the alien ships had vanished. Indeed. And we're just getting started. The chapter closed with the crew preparing for the inevitable next encounter, their resolve hardening. The stakes were higher now, with both sides adapting and evolving in this deadly game of wits and survival. The hunt was far from over, and humanity had proven that they wouldn't just be prey, they'd fight tooth and nail to survive. The command deck of the Horizon's Edge buzzed with subdued tension. Captain Morgan stood near the main viewport, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. The recent victories had bought them time, but every instinct told him that Razorclaw was plotting something bigger, a final, decisive strike. He couldn't afford to relax. Not now. Captain, incoming transmission from Fleet Command, Lieutenant Rios announced. Her voice cut through the hum of the ship's systems, drawing the crew's attention. Morgan nodded, signaling for her to put it on screen. Admiral Graves' weathered face flickered into view, his expression grim. Captain Morgan, we've intercepted communications from the alien forces. Intel suggests they're rallying for a coordinated assault, a full-scale invasion, the Admiral said, his tone heavy with the weight of what was coming. They aim to break our defenses in one overwhelming strike. You and your fleet are on the front line. Morgan's jaw tightened, but he showed no sign of fear. Understood, sir. We'll make them pay for every inch they try to take. Graves leaned in, his gaze hard. They've grown desperate, Captain. Desperate enemies are reckless, but also dangerous. They'll use every dirty trick they have left. Be ready for anything. As the transmission ended, the bridge fell silent, tension coiling like a spring. Morgan turned to face his crew, his voice calm but commanding. You heard the Admiral. They're coming with everything they've got, and they'll expect us to fold. But we're not just going to hold the line. We're going to hit them where it hurts. He pulled up a tactical display of the nearby asteroid field, a dense cluster of rocks, unstable but brimming with opportunities. We know they favor ambushes and precision strikes. This time, we set the bait and spring the trap. We'll lure them into the asteroid field, where their numbers work against them. Once they're committed, we cut off their retreat and grind them down. Rios exchanged a glance with Chief Engineer O'Malley, who grinned in anticipation. A risky play, Captain? But it's got teeth, O'Malley remarked, the edge of excitement in his voice. Morgan's strategy was audacious, baiting the hunters into a place where human ingenuity could turn chaos into an advantage. Hours later, the fleet moved into position, carefully threading the dangerous asteroid field. The atmosphere was thick with tension, each crew member focused and ready. Morgan watched the sensor readouts, waiting for any sign of movement. It didn't take long. Multiple signatures detected, Captain, Rios reported. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were sharp. They're coming in fast, deploying in a pincer formation. Morgan allowed himself a thin smile. Right on cue. All ships, hold your positions. Let them think they've got us pinned. Razorclaw's fleet appeared on the edge of the asteroid field, charging forward with ruthless precision. His ship led the assault, flanked by dozens of smaller vessels. The alien commander's voice crackled over the comms, dripping with malicious satisfaction. You've run out of tricks, human. This time, there's nowhere to hide. Morgan's response was cold and measured. Who said we were hiding? At that moment, the human fleet shifted, unleashing a barrage of guided munitions that detonated the unstable asteroids around Razorclaw's ships. Massive rocks splintered into deadly shrapnel, tearing through the enemy formation. Panic rippled through the alien ranks as their careful approach turned into chaos. Now! All ships, advance and engage at will! Morgan's command was met with a roar of approval as the human ships surged forward, weapons blazing. The once coordinated alien fleet scrambled, struggling to regain control in the deadly debris field. Razorclaw snarled in frustration as he realized the trap had been meticulously planned to exploit every one of his tactics. They've baited us into a kill zone! Regroup! Razorclaw barked, but it was no use. The human fleet was relentless, hammering the disoriented aliens with calculated strikes. Morgan's strategy had turned the asteroid field into a deadly grinder, where precision and coordination gave the humans the upper hand. Despite the chaos, Razorclaw's ship managed to break free from the fray, retreating deeper into the field. But Morgan wasn't done yet. Focus fire on the lead ship. Razorclaw's our target. Cut off his escape. The human fleet closed in, tightening the noose. Razorclaw's ship shuddered under the onslaught, systems failing one by one. The hunter had become the hunted, trapped in a desperate bid for survival. But even as his ship's hull buckled, Razorclaw's eyes gleamed with defiant hatred. You think this ends here, human? You've only delayed your extinction. Morgan watched as Razorclaw's ship erupted in a blinding explosion, debris scattering into the void. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. He knew Razorclaw's words were more than empty threats. Somewhere out there, another wave was preparing. But for now, humanity stood victorious, proving once again that in this deadly game of survival, they were a force to be reckoned with. The dust of battle still hung in the void as the human fleet regrouped in the aftermath of Razorclaw's defeat. Captain Morgan surveyed the scene, his eyes scanning the wreckage of alien ships drifting in the asteroid field. The victory was decisive, but there was no celebration on the horizon's edge, only the silent understanding that the war wasn't over. Lieutenant Rios broke the silence. We've confirmed Razorclaw's flagship is destroyed, but some of their smaller vessels managed to retreat. They're regrouping deeper in the sector. Morgan clenched his jaw, his mind racing. Razorclaw's gone, but his death will rally the remaining hunters. They'll come at us harder, more desperate than ever. Chief Engineer O'Malley walked up beside him, wiping grease from his hands. We hit them where it hurts, Captain. Took out their best. That's got to count for something. It does, Morgan replied, but there was a tightness in his voice. But desperation breeds recklessness. They won't play by their old rules anymore. A comms alert interrupted their exchange. Captain, incoming transmission on all channels, Rios reported, frowning. It's them. Morgan's expression hardened. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a towering figure shrouded in shadow. The image was distorted, but the menace in the voice was unmistakable. Humans! You have shown teeth, but you are still prey. Razorclaw was a fool to underestimate you, but we will not. The hunt has just begun. The threat hung in the air like a storm cloud. Morgan leaned forward, locking eyes with the alien figure. This isn't a hunt anymore. You've turned this into a war, and you'll find we're better at that than you'll ever be. The alien's laughter was a guttural snarl. We shall see. Your defiance will be your undoing. The great hunt will end with your extinction. The transmission cut out abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Morgan took a deep breath, turning to face his crew. This isn't just about survival anymore. They want to make an example of us. But we're going to show them that humanity doesn't break, we hit back harder. Lieutenant Rios nodded, her eyes steely with resolve. We've beaten them before. We'll do it again. But Morgan knew that confidence alone wouldn't win the next battle. Prepare the fleet for rapid redeployment. They'll strike where we're weakest. I want every ship refitted and ready for immediate response. We'll need to be faster, smarter, and more ruthless than they expect. As the crew moved with renewed purpose, Morgan allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. He had seen the horrors of war before, but this was different. The enemy wasn't just powerful, they were relentless, driven by a twisted code that saw humanity as nothing more than prey. But humans had always thrived under pressure, rising from the ashes of every trial thrown at them. Morgan's thoughts were interrupted by O'Malley's voice. Captain, what's our next move? Morgan's eyes narrowed as he gazed out into the stars. We take the fight to them. Find their staging grounds, hit them before they can regroup. If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. The horizon's edge surged forward, leading the fleet into the dark unknown. Morgan knew that the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but he also knew that the spirit of humanity was something no alien could ever truly grasp. They would keep fighting, adapting, and outthinking their foes, because that's what humanity did best. As the fleet disappeared into the black, the resolve on the bridge was palpable. The great hunt had evolved into something far more brutal, a test of endurance, wits, and the indomitable human spirit. And in this game, it was clear, humanity would not be prey. They would be the ones writing the end of this story. The chapter closed on that silent determination, the understanding that the final confrontation would be the ultimate measure of everything they stood for. But whatever came next, Morgan and his crew were ready to meet it head on.